Continuing our discussion of the tragedy in Connecticut, we'll see there the memorial to the children and the grown-ups who died. We're joined now from New York by Jeff Jarvis. He runs the entrepreneurial journalism program at the City University of New York and blogs at Buzz Machines. Head up. Got to go to Soledad O'Brien with breaking news out of Connecticut.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that. Let's listen in as they're getting ready to start this press conference. I'm about 10 yards away, and it looks like Lieutenant Vance is about to speak. Here he goes.
Through the night, major crime detectives are still at the scenes of the school and of the secondary scene. We're still actively working those areas. There's nothing new to report relative to the investigation. Suffice it to say that it is moving forward. As I said yesterday, and I will not and cannot detail pieces of the investigation, but I can tell you that we have recovered evidence. Contrary to some of the news reports that have been out there, we have recovered some evidence. It is being analyzed. It is being processed. The weaponry involved, we are tracing them historically all the way back to when they were on the workbench being assembled. And every bit of ancillary information regarding every weapon is also being examined and looked at with our federal partners. In addition, the post-mortem examination by the Office of Chief State's Medical Examiner is ongoing. Hopefully early this afternoon we'll be able to release factual information on the last two deceased in this case. As you know, there is a presidential visit scheduled this afternoon. I don't have details on that. I know that's being put out via Washington, so we'll leave that as is. We are in the process, and I'm sure you've seen, as I explained to you, we have multiple crime scenes, but sticking specifically with the school. The school crime scene, the building itself is still being worked on. Remember I told you we had a secondary crime scene, and that was all the vehicles on the exterior of the school. Our detectives have examined each and every one of them, searched each and every one of them, and we are beginning to release those back to their owners. So slowly but surely we're beginning to complete the exterior part of the crime scene. The governor and the lieutenant governor are on site that have been actively involved today. One thing that's becoming somewhat of a concern, and that is misinformation is being posted on social media sites. There has been misinformation coming from people posing as the shooter in this case, posing using other IDs, mimicking this crime and crime scene and criminal activity that took place in this community. There's been some things in somewhat of a threatening manner. It is important to know that we have discussed with federal authorities that these issues are crimes. They will be investigated statewide and federally, and prosecution will take place when people perpetrating this information are identified. Again, all information relative to this case is coming from these microphones, and any information coming from other sources cannot be confirmed, and in many cases it's been found is inaccurate. So I simply, that's the newest twist today, that we want to make sure that's perfectly clear that social media websites that contain information relative to this case are not being posted by the Connecticut State Police, are not being posted by the Newtown Police, are not being posted by any authorities in this case. So any of that information and people that are putting that information up there in any manner, all right, that can be construed as a violation of state or federal law will be prosecuted, will be investigated and prosecuted. Questions? I can take a few, and again, understanding that we still are active in this case, okay?
The current has a very specific timeline of how this event happened, and I'm wondering if you can, in fact, confirm that timeline that is now being reported in great detail by the Hartford Courant this morning, from the moment...
Very good question. I've been the only one speaking about this case to every member of the media. I cannot restate or state heavily enough. I have not and will not put out a timeline in this criminal investigation as it is underway. It is inappropriate, and we will not do that. Any sources that are putting out any kind of information like that does not come from the official investigating agency, which is the Connecticut State Police, assisted by the Newtown Police Department, okay? We will not put that out as the investigation is ongoing.
Sir, what do you mean by
I have not read it, so I can tell you that. But we have not put out any timeline information. We would not do that.
Because you have said that there were 2 places inside the school. Can you confirm that the principal and the psychologist were shot near the front door, and that the children and the teachers and other workers were in 2 classes?
Again, what I've stated relative to the interior of the crime scene was that the shooting took place in a singular section of the school that involved 2 classrooms and a hallway. That's as much as we said about that. We cannot and will not describe the location of the deceased in this investigation. We simply won't do that. Yes, sir. Sir.
You said you're investigating the firearms.
Yes, sir.
The shooter was taken by his family members to a shooting range in months past. So thus, they would have gone shooting with his mother, who was one of his children.
I don't know that, quite frankly. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, is that we can't take segments of an investigation and discuss that publicly, because something taken out of context could be misinterpreted. It could be misinterpreted and not factual once it's misinterpreted. Therefore, number one, I don't know anything about that particular statement you just made. Okay, and number 2, even if I did, I would say, let us put it into the contents of the investigation so that we can manage it and you can get a whole complete picture of exactly what's going on. Do I know anything more? Just the 4 firearms. We're working with our federal partners, and we, as I said in my statement, we are analyzing, examining. We'll trace them back to their origin. We'll trace every step of the way, and every time that we can, where they were used, how they were used, they'll be examined forensically. A great deal of work must be done on those weapons.
Sir, no, you can't go into detail. Sir, have you got any evidence that any of the other weapons were fired?
I can't answer that question. I do not know. Our detectives will, in fact, be able to answer that question at the conclusion of this investigation.
Sir,
yes, sir.
I know you can't go into detail about motive or what you're finding, but how confident do you feel that you will eventually get a good picture of motive?
I'm confident that we will put every single resource that we have into this investigation, and that we will answer every single question that is humanly possible at the conclusion of this case. We'll examine every piece of evidence. We'll speak to every single witness that can have any impact whatsoever on this case. And certainly our goal is to answer every single question.
With what you know now, do you think with no note, no alive shooter, how confident do you feel that you'll eventually be able to put together something that people would consider?
Okay, just to say, we have not stated what evidence we have and have not collected. I want to make that perfectly clear. How confident am I? We have the best of the best working on this case. We have our major crime detectives, we have federal authorities, we have Newtown investigators. We have everything and everybody focusing on this case. As everyone knows, it's a huge case. It's a huge case. We're using every single resource, and our goal is to paint a complete picture so that we all know and the public knows exactly what happened here. A couple more, folks.
Can you say about the size of the magazines that were used in the guns?
I'm sorry, I cannot.
Lieutenant, messages on social media, what do you mean by that?
Well, the best I can explain them, and I'm not a social media expert, so I'm not gonna claim to be. But there have been indications that, and there have been quotes by people who are posing as the shooter. You can go on different Facebook pages and find this information out. I know members of the press have, and suffice it to say that the information has in fact been deemed as threatening. It's been inaccurate. It's been people posing as other people and discussing with federal authorities. They believe it's a violation of state and/or federal law and warrants an investigation. Anyone that in fact is perpetrating that information could in fact be subject to arrest and be prosecuted federally.
Has anyone been identified, questioned?
They're working on that right now. This is brand new information. We literally just got it up as we were coming through this press conference. A couple more quick questions and then I got to go. Yes, ma'am.
When can we obtain any more information on the other 2 bodies?
As soon, the minute I have that, we're going to reduce it to writing. We'll bring it up to you. We'll bring more copies of the names from yesterday if anyone needs it. But certainly, the minute we have that, we'll bring that up to you. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know when the bodies are going to be released back to the families?
They have already started that process. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any idea of when these students can return to class, and what can you say to parents in Connecticut about safety in schools?
What's important to note about safety in school is that from the educational commissioner in the state of Connecticut, working with the governor's office, it's being examined on a local and statewide basis. There are many plans in place for emergency purposes in all the schools in Connecticut. All of them are being re-examined, and certainly parents should in fact be confident that law enforcement in every community, state police, local police, the educators, the leaders of the school systems are doing everything they can to make sure that the schools in Connecticut are safe. What I'd like the lieutenant to do is to talk about the schools here in Newtown, please.
Sir.
1 second.
Yes, we've been working closely with the superintendent of schools here. Obviously, we're still very sensitive to the family in this situation, and we want to move forward very slowly and respectfully. They do have some tentative plans as far as moving forward with school, and the school system will be putting those out in the near future.
Do you imagine that children will ever return to class in that building?
You know, at this time it's too early to say, but I would find it very difficult for them to do that. But certainly that's one of the things that they're going to have to look into, yes.
They are going to transport kids to Monroe starting later this week, right?
That's one of the plans that we're looking into. It's tentative plans right now, but as we said, you know, we're trying to be as respectful as we can. We want to keep these kids together. They need the support of each other.
Okay, a couple more quick questions. Yes, sir.
Lieutenant, without revealing a specific timeline, can you say more about Lance's movements, arrives at school, breaks a window, turns left, right? Can you just give us a general sense of his movements and how...
The most general it can be, it has to be very general, was that the school he forcibly entered the school facility itself, okay, encountered staff, students, and the tragedy occurred. That's as much as I want to go. I'm sorry, but that's all.
Lieutenant, can you tell us
Survivors, have you been able to talk to them?
Our people are talking with everybody, slowly but surely, but methodically too. This is not something that this is something where people's hearts are broken, and as we all well know, and we have to be sensitive, and we are moving as quickly and efficiently as we can. The people that we can talk to, yes, we have spoken to many witnesses, but there are many more witnesses to speak to, including and not limited to maybe even speaking with youngsters.
What are the wounded?
We have spoken, yes, we have spoken with the wounded.
Lieutenant, can you tell us what role...
We can't discuss that. We won't discuss what witnesses have put forth. Again, taking it out of context, we'll include that in the report and in the final summary of what took place.
Can you tell us what
All right, one more. Yes, sir.
Time frame about when we're going to get update on the vote?
Everyone keeps asking that question, and I have to say to you that for us to be able to give you a summary of the motive, we have to complete the investigation. We have to have the whole picture before we can say, hopefully, how and why this occurred. That's not going to come very quickly.
To put it. If you left any writings, any notes behind?
Again, I cannot detail evidence. We don't do that. It's simply stated. We have a great deal of evidence that we're analyzing, and that's as much as I can say about what we seized.
Without elaborating, can you say, are there pieces of the puzzle missing that will make this more difficult to tell?
Are there pieces of the... Yes, there are pieces missing that we haven't had a chance to finish yet. The forensic part of it is an important part. That's not done yet. That's being worked on, but it's not done yet. The witnesses that need to be interviewed, there's an immense number of witnesses that need to be interviewed. That's not completed yet. You know, there are weeks worth of work that we have left in order to complete this. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to say that we will come back in a couple hours. I apologize for having you out here in the inclement weather. We are also, but I want to get the information from the medical examiner's office for you and confirm that. I want to see if I get more detail relative to the presidential visit and what the logistics of that are going to be this afternoon. And if there's any updates that I get from the major crime commanders of the department, I will bring that back to you, okay?
Can you say what federal crime is being broken by those posting on social media? What specific type of crime?
Federal authority, sir. I'd have to consult with the U.S. Attorney on that. I simply don't know, okay? We'll be back in a couple hours, folks. Please stay dry.
All right, so there you have it. The Connecticut State Police spokesman, Lieutenant Paul Vance, updating us. Soledad, a very interesting development. Apparently, there's all these false social media reports allegedly, supposedly from this killer out there, and the warning from this police Chief, the specific warning being, if you get engaged and you circulate these kinds of false reports with threats out there, you are violating the law and they will go after you.